So this particular session, good evening all again. So this particular session, we are calling it as a QA. Technically, QA means we are going to cover the testing concepts here and also the Scrum Master, okay, like the what is the agile methodology we have, okay. So those concepts we are going to cover as part of the this particular session. And in this, what is the contents highlights which we are going to have? We will be having we are going to have some case studies as well as a live project. So when we say live project, we are coming up with our own site. So for the same site, we will be giving, okay. And also if you have any other site, if you think, right, so we can still come up with the case studies for those site. Live for the live project, we have multiple features in our site. That site we are going to test it out. Okay, we are going to work on that. When let's say test, like what is the test strategy we have? What is the test plan we are going to have, right? So test cases, all those details we are going to cover part of this. Like database of interview questions, we are coming up with a Google Drive, and in that Google Drive, we will be sharing all the details. Okay, in the interview, like it is a Word document, a PDF document we are going to have. In that document, you will be able to see the questions, the interview questions which you're going to come up with. Likewise, resume preparation we are going to have, like a couple of mock interviews also will be covered. Okay, so similarly, blog for questions and answers. Okay, like this is going to be part of our site, the blog when we say, so that we are going to have it. And also videos, as I was showing in the YouTube channel, which is listed here. In this channel, we are going to have the videos from our channel. And also seminars by QA managers, like whoever is currently working in the industry, okay, apart from us. So we are going to have some more seminars covered by them so that you can get a different perspective. Okay, in the way with the people will think from the testing perspective, a different way of thinking. So that we are going to cover a couple of sessions. Okay, so that is for the seminars with the QA managers. And the like WhatsApp group, we are going to create a group in a couple of days later, and then that's what we are going to cover. And similarly, as I mentioned, Google Drive access it for the content. At any point in time, if you have a question, so you can always contact us, okay, on this email ID. And also this is the number which you can contact us for the WhatsApp, through WhatsApp, sorry. And these are the content we are going to have. It is the testing concepts, okay, like what is the testing we are going to have, what is SDLC we have, what is SDLC. So these are the things we're going to cover. Automation testing concepts, basic automation testing concepts we're going to cover. Part of the testing tool, right? Like it is going to be Selenium we are going to cover, or there is one more tool which we will go over the different tools which are available and we'll try to cover those tools. But the basic concepts we will be covering part of this. Like like if at all you want to go for Selenium, you need to have the knowledge of Java. So the basic concept for one session or two sessions will be covering those, and then we will be covering a couple of sessions for the Selenium, how it looks and what we are going to use, how we are going to use. Those are concepts we're going to have. Similarly, database concepts, we're going to use MySQL as well as like we will give you the commands and all from the Oracle perspective also. Technically, your database, it will be pretty much the similar way we are going to have in almost all SQLs. Like SQL is one, but these tools, right? So SQL or MyMS Access. So these kind of things, you have a different kind of, a little difference will be there when it comes to the way you are going to use those tools. Scrum Master, again, we are going to call the agile methodology. We will be discussing those concepts. What are the defect tracking tools which you're going to use? Okay, like Jira or ServiceNow or HPQC. So those are the things we're going to use it for this defect tracking. Really, version control. Okay, we will be explaining different version control tools. Okay, like documentation when you want to move the code, like it is what is the test sign-off documents which you need. So those concepts you're going to cover in the documentation part. Okay. And then this is a common, like we are just asking for you to have this prerequisites. Okay. So it is, we are just saying that, okay, you should have the enthusiasm as well as the dedication to attend the sessions. Okay. And expectations. What are the expectations you have? Okay. So we are just trying to say that we try to concentrate more on the sessions. Okay. So that is what the whole point we are going to cover. So these are the topics which we are going to have. Okay. So, and then coming to this, the first batch. Okay. So we are going to have like this. Okay. So we are going to start talking about all these different kinds of things which we are going to have. We start with the testing, software testing and the importance of that. Then we will cover the SDLC, which is nothing but software development lifecycle. And then it is SDLC. It is something like software testing lifecycle. Okay. So what are the life cycle? What is the life cycle we need to follow for the testing phase that we are going to have? And then we are going to talk about the manual testing. And likewise, we are going to talk about the automation testing. Okay. So like what is mean by automation? Testing automation is automation testing. Like the tool, okay, how the automation testing will work. Okay, so what are the major tools which you have in the market? So those concepts we are going to cover here in the automation testing. And then we go in detail into the concept. We just cover the topics here, high level, okay, and then we just go to the what is meant by the test strategy, test plan, test scenario, test case, test execution, and test sign-off. These are the phases that are mainly important in the case of the testing. Okay, we need to start with the test strategy, how we are going to test, how many resources we are going to have. Okay, so what kind of, whether any separate hardware is required or software is required, or kind of multiple things we need to consider about the testing here. Okay, so like that when we why we need to talk about the test strategy and all those, it depends on the kind of testing we are going to have. Like when you are using ATM, right? So that also being tested. The testing of ATM is different than testing the gmail.com. Okay, like sign in for Gmail. Okay, so those are two different testing strategies which we are going to cover here. Okay, like concepts, which testing needs to be, which strategy we need to use and how to use it. Okay, so we will be covering in detail, just giving that. Okay, so likewise, let us say if you are using a medical equipment, right, that the testing is going to be a little bit different strategy when you are going to test a medical equipment that is going to be like it is life threatening at times, right? So those kind of things we are going to use it. Similarly, like test plan when we are going to have it is like when we are going to start the testing. Okay, or how many resources again. Okay, what is the exit criteria, what is the entry criteria. Okay, when we can say even any product, okay, nothing is perfect in the world. Any product which you have defects, up to what tolerance you can accept the defects. Those kind of listing is going to be provided in this. How many resources are required? Okay, so what are they doing? Like all those, how many hours? Everything is going to be covered in this plan. Likewise, test scenario. How we are going to use that scenario, how we are going to test it. Okay, that particular scenario, and then it is a test case we are going to write. Similarly, execution, we need to do that. And also, like we are going to have the test execution, and after the whole entire execution is done, we are going to give a sign off. Usually, like when we are talking about the testing, it is like the gatekeeper. Remember, tester is like the team. Testing team is like the gatekeeper for the applications. Unless until you say yes, we are not going to, like the testing team says yes, we are sorry, yeah. When the testing team says, yes, it is working, is everything is fine, this can be deployed to the production or the live instance, that is where the code will be moved. So it's like the gatekeeper. If you say yes, yes. If you say no, no. Kind of stuff we are going to have. And after this, we are going to cover the agile methodology concepts, okay? Like what is mean by agile we have, okay? So what is mean by the Scrum, whatever we are talking about, and also what is we nowadays do hear the word like stand-up calls, and right. So those scenarios we are going to discuss more. Similarly, like Scrum framework, we are going to talk about those things, the master. And after this, it is all these are up to the sprints, okay, like sprint story and all those which we're going to have. We will be covering all those up to the stand-up meetings. And then it is we will try to mimic the stand-up meeting for a couple of, at least for 3 or 4 days. So we know how exactly it is going to be in the real world environment. Okay, so that we are going to cover here. And then it is going to be we are going to have one session for the resume preparation. We just have it as a placeholder here. Right now, we just have it only as a placeholder, but it is like one-on-one, we will be talking about this. Similarly, the mock interviews, we will work with you to schedule some time, okay, with the mock interviews. And please remember, it is only half of the information that is, we just put it here in the interest of time, okay? So we are going to have more of the automation concepts we are going to have, okay? And also like it is a test artifacts and HPQC, okay? So what is we usually call it as URS, FS, okay? So what is a test lab we are going to have, okay? Those things we are going to cover everything under that particular versions, okay? Like what is the document which you need to sign off when you are going to move it from the development to like when the testing is completed, what is the documents you're going to have, okay? That information, we're going to track it like this, at least up to 50 points we have here. We just have only capture only some at this point. By tomorrow's session, we will have everything covered, okay? Like when it comes to the automation, right? So we are going to cover the concepts like, okay, what are the automation concepts we're going to have, okay? So what is the Selenium we are going to have, how to use the conditions, loops, okay? Different objects kind of stuff, okay? So it is, technically, it is like we need to code it, okay? In case of the Selenium, we cannot have the record and playback, but we need to code it, everything. So like this, we are going to cover, okay? And even in the case of this, so we are going to have the Scrum also, we are going to have more concepts like Scrum events, Scrum artifacts we're going to cover, okay? So HPQC, we are going to cover in the same lines, okay? And we are going to have the HPQC, we will be covering. And also we have service now, which we call it as Snow, okay? We will be covering this way, okay? So Jira also one more tool which we are going to use. Okay, we will just cover these scenarios, like how exactly it is going to look like, okay? So like those things we are going to cover. In case of this scenario, in case of all these topics, we are going to cover those details, okay? So now coming to the software testing and importance, let us just start with that particular topic today. Okay, this is for our tracking purpose. I'm just maintaining this, and this information will be shared with you through Google Drive. Okay, now we will cover this part, cover the topic. Okay, so what is the importance of so why we need to cover why we need to test the software, okay, and also the importance. Like if you look at any product which is being built, okay, there are two things we are going to have. The first one is development, and the next one is the testing, okay? So these are the two major phases in any product. We need to have a product developed as well as we need to have the product tested properly. Like when like the products which we are using, or like any objects which you are using in our real world. Example, if you use a bicycle, okay, that also it is developed. Now, when you are having the bicycle, that bicycle also that needs to be tested properly. Whenever you are pedaling from the front, pedaling to the front, okay, whether it is going properly in the clockwise direction when you are trying to pedal, whether it is moving properly or not. Okay, that we need to test in under different conditions. Like, well, let us say wind we are going to have, okay, or whether the brakes are properly applying or not. Okay. So whenever you're just having a full slope, and at that slope, whether it is properly working or not. So those kind of things that need to be tested. It is just development is not enough. Even the testing has to happen properly. So that is that the testing also plays a important role in the software. Like, it is not only in the software, for that matter, anything, whatever we just use the development, whatever we develop, that has to be tested properly. Both development and testing go hand in hand. Okay, like, even if you just take a real world example, even in our house also, whenever you are, let us say you are having a party and you invited 10 people for the party. Okay, and now in that you are just trying to cook some food. Okay, now in that, cooking is development, whereas whether it is tasting correctly or not. Okay, so that is the testing, that we need to make sure that whether the combinations of spices, including the salt, okay, so the chili powder and all those, they are properly there or not. So that is a testing which we are doing. We may not be using the word, okay, like testing on development in our real world environment, but every stage we are using the testing. Every stage we are using the testing. Like, we are just taking another example of when you are just trying to when you are planning to go out, you just lock the door. And most of the time, what we do, we lock the door and we turn the, like, whatever the handle you have, right, to see whether it is properly locked or not. You try to push the door and then see whether it is properly locked or not. What is that we are doing there? We're testing it out. Okay. If you just try to expand that to our environment, like, which, because we are into the software world, if you just try to expand it a little bit into our world, we can just say that locking the door is development, whereas whether the door is locked properly or not, checking it out is the testing. Okay. Likewise, we need to test this. Okay. And depending on different types of products which we are using, so the testing concepts will change. Concepts in the sense, overall concept is the same, but the way you are trying to test it will be different. Okay, so this is how we are going to have the development and testing. Unless until there is something developed, you cannot test it. And unless until it is tested properly, you cannot say development is perfect. So both go hand in hand. Okay, so this is applicable for all the any software, okay, or anything that is being done. But as I mentioned, because we are talking about the software, we just limit it to our software development as well as the software testing here. Am I clear? Or if, please let me know if I'm fast, slow, or anything.
I'm good.
Now we come to the concept. Okay, the second topic which we try to talk about is the software development life cycle. Okay, like any other life cycle which you have. Okay, like the human body also, similar way we are going to have the software development life cycle. Like, it is any product, okay, any software that is being developed. So it has to go through different phases in the software development. Okay. And that is called, we are calling it as the software development life cycle. Okay. And there are multiple methodologies which we use for the software development life cycle. But let us talk about the different phases we have in the SDLC. Okay, in short, it's always called as a SDLC. So we call it as a software development life cycle here. Okay, so first of all, if you can try to correlate all this information to our real world, okay, anything, whatever we are talking in the software industry, it is if you just try to correlate to the real world, that is where we are going to have it. Okay, so it's the same way we are going to have in the real world also, the same phases we have. Okay, so the first one is, what is that we are going to do? We need to plan properly. Okay, so the first one is we need to make the project planning first of all. Whenever you want to test something or whenever you want to develop something, without knowing what to develop, we cannot do anything there. Okay, hope you agree with that point. So without knowing, without developing, without knowing what we are trying to do, what is that we are going to do there, right? So it's like project planning is the first one. And we know that, okay, I want to do this particular work. Okay, it is just high level we thought, okay. And then we are going to have the second point, we are going to have gathering requirements is the second phase which we need to do. Okay, and also analysis. Okay, we need to have the requirement gathering. Okay, and then we need to do the analysis. Okay, and the next one is the design. Okay, how the software, how the program going to look. Okay, so this is the design. We are going to have the third phase, and after this is done, it is called as the coding. We are going to write it. Okay, or we can call it as implementation. Okay, technically it is a coding which we can have, and then we are going to have the concept called as the testing. Okay, and after the testing is done, it is called deployment. And finally, we are going to have maintenance. Okay, so these are the 7 phases which we have. Okay, we can use in depending on the context and all, we can have. Okay, so like coding is one phase, implementation another phase, kind of. But concept is, in the software development life cycle, we are going to have these phases. Okay, so the first one is the project planning. Okay, like if you just try to see, okay, what is that, what for this particular project planning phase, right? Let us just take it as a real world example. Okay, or you want to build a website. Okay, just simple. Okay, when you want to build a website, or you are planning to go on a vacation. Okay, okay, so let us say you are planning to go on vacation. Okay, to some place, hill station you want to go, example. Now in that case, the first point is that project planning. In that case, what we are going to have, the first thing is, when you want to go to a hill station, which place you want to go. Okay, that is the first thing which will be covering. And then after that, okay, so when you want to go, how you want to go. Okay, so those concepts you need to have. How many people are going, okay, whether you have vacation or not, or if not, whether you have the proper approval from your boss for this for your vacation. So that comes under the planning. Like we always do that in our real world. Okay, in our day-to-day work also, we try to do those planning. And after deciding that, okay, what is that we are going to do? Now we are going to have the gathering requirements and analysis. Okay, so what is gathering requirements and analysis? Now that we just try to decide, okay, to go to one particular place. Example, let us say Niagara Falls. Okay, you just plan to go to Niagara Falls. Now that is a project. When you want to go, okay, you just looked at your calendar. Okay, you try to get the approval from your boss and all those. That particular planning is done. Now that we talk about the second one, requirements, how far it is. Okay, how to go. Okay, so what is that we need to take with us? How many pairs of clothes we need to have? Okay, what are the food restrictions you have? Do you have any particular food options there or not? So those are all comes under the requirements. We just write it on a pen and paper. If it is one or two, we try to remember. If it is more, we try to write it as a requirements. Okay, like design. Okay, now that you have the requirements, okay, this is the place we are going to have. Okay, so these things we are going to have. So these are the things I'm going to take. Everything you have it. Now you come to the design. Okay, design means which route you are going to take. Okay, so that all those you are going to design. Okay, you have multiple routes. Let us say if this particular route doesn't work, so what is the alternative route you are going to have? So that design, coding or implementation. It's sitting in the car, okay, or getting into the car, onto the different transportation and then starting. There is a coding. And in our world, testing is not exactly the same, but it is kind of, you go there and you try to visit some places there, okay, like which there are some famous places like made of the mist or something they call there, okay. So that we are going to test it out, okay, whether it is correctly there or not, okay. So likewise, deployment, you can just try to take it as, okay, you're going to stay overnight there, okay. Similarly, maintenance, right? So maintenance in the sense the next day morning, get up and everything do properly. So like again, go to the other places, kind of. So these two, last one, you cannot exactly put it that for our real world example, but I'm just trying to give it, trying to correlate to the real world. Okay. Now, for when it comes to our software, right? So let us say you are planning to design a site, okay, or you're going to design a site, or you're given a particular site to test it out, okay. So that particular site, how we are going to test it? The first of all, you're going to have the plan for that, okay, how the site is going to look, okay. These all, we are not talking only from the testing perspective. These are whole entire development also we are talking here, okay. We are talking like how the site, okay, what is the site you're going to make, what is the purpose of the site, what is the site and what is the purpose of the site, okay, that we are going to cover example. And then we are going to have what are the features we are going to have in the site. Site, when I say, it's a website, okay. So what are the features we are going to be there, going to be in the site? Yeah. And the next one is design, okay. Design, when we say look and feel of the site. Now you discussed all this and you decided all these things, okay, look and feel of the website and all those, you decided everything. And now after deciding these things, you are going to start, right? So like this particular feature you need to have, how it is going to be. So now we are going to have the coding. You are going to hire someone, okay, or you by yourself, or you're going to hire someone to start coding that or developing that. It is the actual word which you can call it as a software development happens here, okay. We just try to think like, okay, development will immediately start, but before that all these phases has to be completed. What is that you're going to do, okay, what are the features you're going to have, look and feel, okay, all these we are going to implement it here, coding. And after the coding, we are going to have, just give me 1 second, please. Sorry. Yeah, coding means is that actual development that is going to happen. And after the coding is done, like example, someone says, okay, it is already developed. Okay. Now we need to go and then test it out whether it is properly built or not. When we say testing, what is the standard for that testing? Okay. It is what are we talking about in the requirements? Okay, so here in the requirement, whatever we ask for, these features are there or not. Okay, or in other words, whatever agreed upon features are there or not. Okay, sometimes we may ask for some requirement, but whether it may be technical limitations we are going to have, okay, or whether it may be the agreed upon features we are going to have, we may not implement all. So we are going to test agreed upon features are implemented or not. That is a concept we are going to use. So this is a major concept. Our main concentration is going to be under this one. Okay, agreed upon features are implemented or not. Okay, and then after this is agreed upon, okay, so in this case also, when it comes to testing, we have multiple testing. Okay, multiple types of testing we are going to have. Okay, we will be covering that, okay, in the next sessions. So when I say multiple, we call something like a unit testing, we call. Okay, and then we can call it as a user we can something called as a unit testing. We are going to have UAT. We are going to have, okay, something like SIT we call it. Okay, some regression testing we are going to have. Okay, so multiple kinds of testing we are going to cover in this. Okay, so functional testing we are going to cover. Okay, so like this, when we say unit means when we are developing something, okay, that has to be tested by the person who developed it to make sure whether it is according to the requirement or not. Okay, so this is what we are going to have, something like the unit testing. Okay, like functional testing, whether it is working according to the functionality or not, required functionality. UAT means it is user acceptance testing. We're going to cover these features as I mentioned, okay, in detail, but user acceptance testing. Likewise, SIT we call it is system integration testing. We are going to have regression testing. Okay, regression testing means when you are making one change, you need to make sure that it is not impacting the others. Okay, so that is what we are going to call in the regression testing. Okay, like we are going to cover each and every topic in detail. Okay, this particular part concept. Okay, but our main concentration is going to be in this particular area. Even though we have all these phases in the SDLC, our concentration is more into this particular concept. And the next one is the deployment. When we say deployment, okay, it is like in the software coding. Okay, we are going to have multiple instances we call. Okay, multiple instances we call. When we say instances, okay, so it is like when you are asking for the development team to develop something, they cannot just directly go and then develop in the production environment. We have the development instance, we call something like a QA instance, and we call the production instance. Okay, development means the development team or the coding team, okay, they are going to develop all the concepts in the development team. And once they are completing the unit testing, they will be moving the code into another instance called the QA instance, the functional testing. Okay, in this QA, okay, you are going to have the initial round of testing. As a testing team or the QA team, you are responsible to make sure you have this functionality covered. Whatever you asked for, it is covered or not. And after your sign off, okay, or once you say yes, everything is fine, now UAT team will come, user acceptance testing. Okay, means the users who is actually going to use the application, okay, the actual team that going to use the application, they designate some users. Okay, like example, if you have 100 users, okay, 100 users are not going to test it. Okay, only some designated 5-6 people, okay, depending on their functionality, They will come and test the application, whether it is properly built or not, as per their requirements. Okay. Please remember all these, whatever the software and all these which you are using. Okay. This particular procedure, it is to support the business. Okay. At the end of the day, there has to be a sale happening in the business. Okay. Money is involved. Okay. So unless until there is a money that is built by developed for the company, there is no use. So all this, what we are just trying to develop here, it is at the end of the day, it is a product that is to be developed to support the business. When the business users, they have to use this application properly. So they need to be satisfied that, okay, we need these features. Yes, this particular feature is available. Okay. So that is what we are going to have in the UAT, okay, which you will perform in the QA or sometimes pre-prod. Okay, some in companies will different companies will have different uh, instances. Okay, some companies may put one more pre-prod. Okay, kind of okay instance or integration instance, something like that. They put that. Next one is the SIT we have. It is called the system integration. Integration means we are not we are talking of when we are talking about the different modules in the company when we are talking about a software, we have different modules, okay, different parts in the company or in the product. Those parts we need to make sure that all those parts are talking to each other properly. So that is the integration. Okay. So this is the integration piece we are going to have, and then the regression testing. When we say regression, it is like when there is some change happen at one place, we need to make sure that because of that change, other functionalities are not impacted. So that is where we are going to have the regression here. Okay. So all this, we are going to test it in the most of the time in the QA. Production instance, it is called the live instance. Okay. Exactly the users are going to use this. Okay, this is the live instance. Like if you just say Gmail you are using, right? We talk about the alpha version, beta version, those kind of things. Okay, but the actual Gmail which we are using now, it is the production instance or it is a live instance. Okay, so like when originally when around 2003 2004 time when the Gmail was rolled off, right? So they gave the link to create the users, like 50 members they can create. So those kind of things, when it may, that is kind of testing purpose, they just give it to the users, how it is looking like. Okay. So those kind of things we have. But when the one which we are using right now, it is the production instance or is the live instance. Okay. Finally, it is a maintenance. Okay. Maintenance is like to make sure that the application is working or the site is working properly, you need to make sure that, okay, so it is maintained, okay, whether the resources are properly there or not. If it is a website you are accessing, so whether that website is having the proper internet connections, whether the site hosting is properly done. So all those things has to be looked into in the case of this maintenance. So these are the 7 phases which we need to which are involved in the software development life cycle. Yeah. As our main concentration is going to be towards the testing, okay, we will be concentrating more. But yeah, these are the concepts which we need to have the idea. Am I clear? So any comments? Okay, so anything you want to add? like this is a site, okay, which we are coming up, okay, with that. So this is the requirement which you have. I want this site, and in this site, these are the like the function, the original what we are talking about here. Okay, so what is the site? Okay, we want to have it. What is the purpose we are going to have? That is the requirements which we are talking about, or the project planning we had. And then it is the requirements. In case of the requirements, we are talking about having these 4 features I need to have. Okay. And then we are talking about the design, how the design has to be look, how the design has to look. Okay. Like here, I need a logo here. Okay. I need these 4 links here. Okay. Or I need something here, like which we need to plan. Okay. How each and every page has to look like. Okay. And then this has to be coded. Someone actually coded this site. Okay, behind the scene coding is done. Now it is in the testing phase. Okay, so to start, okay, like we are just trying to test it. What happens when I just click here? What happens when I click here? Okay, what is this we are going to have? Okay, like these features we are going to implement. And also testing, when we just put all this, when we say start, right, is a mandatory. Okay, whether we have when we have it as a mandatory while typing it, whether it is accepting when you just click on the submit. So that is what the testing we are going to implement. Okay, and then after this is done, we need to buy a space, okay, to host this site. Okay, that is a deployment. Okay, it's a small site, so we can directly deploy it. Okay, and then it is like the local host. Once we test it, we are using the same instance for development and QA, the same instance. And then we need to buy a host, and then space, and then we need to deploy it. That comes for the deployment. And then maintenance. When it comes to maintenance, someone will say, okay, when I just clicked on, I provided the details and submit, I clicked on the submit, whether you got the email or not. Okay, so we did not get the email. Where did the email go? Now we need to go back and then verify whether the email server is working properly or not, or did something change, whether the port number is changed, whether some coding has been changed. Okay, so those things we need to go back and then verify. Okay, now when I'm testing this, if I know how this site is built, okay, example, this site is built using the HTML pages as well as the PHP. Okay, so we have this concept behind the scene. If I know that concept, I can test more thoroughly. Okay, MySQL is the database that is being used behind the scene. Okay, so this is from the testing perspective. Whereas users, okay, they need not worry much about this particular they need not worry much about what is being used. Okay, from the user perspective. But from us, first, we need to know how where the data is getting stored. After you submit, you are going to check in the database whether it is properly there or not. Okay, so those are the things we need to check that. Okay, yeah, so we are going to have more features, and then this particular site, we will be using it as a test case. Okay, for our case studies, along with this other site also, which we are going to demonstrate soon. Okay, a couple of sites we're going to work on that. Okay, any questions or any feedback? I'm just typing my number here. Okay, so you can always reach out to, you can text, or we can send a mail. Okay, so and then these are the 2 methods of communication. Okay, we can use it, and you can always contact us any feedback. Okay, whatever the feedback, okay, we have, any feedback is welcome. Okay, and we'll try to improve our from our perspective. We'll meet. And okay, one more thing I think I forgot to mention, the sessions are Monday to Friday. Okay, we have at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, which means 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain. Okay, 5 p.m. Pacific. Sorry, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm confused. Apologize for that. Okay. It's always Monday to Friday. We are going to have, and if for some reason, if there is any change, okay, we'll let you know in advance. And if you just send me your number and interested to join, okay, we can always send me a direct message and we'll be added to the group after 2 days. From Friday onwards, you will be added to the group, okay, and then we can always communicate through the group for this purpose.